Coming to you from Orange County, California, this is the Jug Life Podcast with Max Ada and Chad Wesley Smith.
Hey everybody, Chad Wesley Smith here. Welcome to another episode of the Jug Life Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by mercurial Max Montana. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. How you guys doing?
And we are here at Freak Strength in Oakland, New Jersey, joined by coach, owner, proprietor, some homeless man who wandered in off the street, Mike Guadango. How you doing, bud?
Right on, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So I've known Mike for about 10 years now. If you saw our episode with Joe Defranco, as we kind of took that trip down memory lane in my religious pilgrimage during college to Defranco's, I stumbled across this man who was much more clean-cut looking then, but you were then known as the asshole,
Yeah.
the box jumping YouTube sensation, shit-talking Jersey, the amount of the Guidos that were at the gym the first day I went there. I remember telling these guys, I was like, oh yeah, I'm staying in the city with my brother, and they're like, oh, bro, there's this party in the city tonight, bro. It's gonna be off the fucking chains, bro. You gotta come out with us, bro. I mean, it was just a stream of bros with a few other words thrown in between. But from that time when you were playing college baseball, kind of tell us a little bit about your athletic career and your coaching career to what has brought you here.
Well, I started off with Joe when I was in high school. I went to him my junior, senior year of high school, and he was working out of a gym called Odyssey, and it was in Waldwick. It was Joe's first gym, and I watched all these freaks go in and out of the closet that they were in, that they kind of designed, and I saw Joe had like pretty meaty forearms. I saw this bald dude with like good forearms. I was like, oh. Fuck, I want like forearms, like, because I'm a baseball guy.
That's what baseball players check out. They're
Your forearms.
I saw him holding the clipboard.
That guy's got some nice forearms.
And he just like has like this one roll right there. Like it comes out real nice. It's like, oh man, like he's got pretty good forearms. I guess he kind of knows what he's doing. So I went back to the back room. I was like, hey, I want training. And he goes, oh, I know you. Like you're that fucking dude that does all those half reps on the pull-up bar. So,
Nice.
So I ended up signing up with him, and I was getting a lot of offers between low-level D1 schools and Division II schools for scholarship offers. I went to University of Delaware, and actually I ended up getting cut from Delaware, and I didn't know what to kind of do from there. And I ended up coming home because that's where my hitting coach was, and that's where Joe was. I was like, oh, you know, I want to go where the best is. You know, I pretty much lived at home, and at home being Defranco's. So I stayed with Joe whether he liked it or not. You know, I was at that gym all day, every day for four more years, you know? And then I ended up slowly, because I knew Joe's program inside and out, you know, just working my ass off there. And if he needed an extra hand with something like, oh, hey, could you spot this guy? Or, hey, take this guy through this real quick. And then before you knew it, one of the coaches kind of screwed up one of his sessions. And Joe was like, hey, I'm busy right now. Can you take this session? I said, fuck yeah, I could take that session. So that was like my sophomore year of college. And I started filling in like little sessions here and there. And then by the time I was a senior, I was taking a ton of clients. And by the time I graduated, I was full time there. So, and after that, I was already technically like kind of working sort of thing at Joe's for 2-3 years by the time I had graduated. Just in and out. And then I still had to do my internship. So everything that I knew was Defranco's gym. It's the best in the world, and Joe's the best trainer I've ever, you know, because I went through strength coaches. I've met a whole bunch of guys, and Joe was just the best I knew. So he said, you know, this is this guy. His name is Buddy Morris. You should check him out. So that was probably my senior year, and I started researching Elite.
What a year are we talking about?
Senior year of college.
And like 2000.
Oh, geez. Something like that. Yeah, 2009, 2010. Right. And I started learning about Buddy maybe 2009. And he said, check out this guy. And I said, well, I have to do my internship. And at my college, this is a small D3 school. I went to William Patterson. We didn't really have strength conditioning. We had exercise physiology, but it was all cardiac rehab based. So I was really the first, I don't want to say the first, but one of the main strength conditioning guys there because I knew what I wanted to do even at a young age. You know, I always just wanted to be jacked. So they let me, originally they never really let people do foreign internships like to other facilities like that far away, but they let me do it because they knew that's what I was interested in. And they knew I was really passionate about it, so they trusted my opinion. I went and I did an internship with, at Pitt with Buddy and James. And when I first emailed them, I knew James as, James Smith, James the Thinker Smith. And I knew James as like the Russian nerd. You know, like this guy, oh, he sounds like the architect from The Matrix, where you just didn't understand
slightly more confusing
actually,
in that movie.
I had forgotten one thing in our intro, and this is the perfect segue for it. As Mike starts to talk about James Smith, our friend, my employee for a bit, Max's roommate for a bit, Mike's mentor, our sponsor for today's podcast is morphobiomechanical differences and overcomplicated sentences. It's a lifestyle. So back to James Smith.
So when I first emailed them, I kind of wanted to stay the hell away from James. I was like, this isn't what I'm about. Like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, he just talks a whole lot of big words. I don't fucking understand what he's saying.
What's the most hyphens in a word that you've seen him use?
Like
four hyphens in one word?
He uses a lot of really, really big, complicated Soviet-type words, you know? So I really didn't want anything to do with it. So I emailed him, and I said, hey, listen, how do I get an internship with Buddy Morris? He goes, well, it's kind of a joint internship program. We don't do just one-on-one type thing. I said, yeah, well, you know, I'm one of Defranco's guys. Like, I kind of got a good idea of what I want to do and how training goes. I just want to intern for Buddy. I don't want to waste any of my time. And he was like, all right, yeah, bro. All right, come on in. You're fine, yeah. So I drive out there, and I'm like riddled with anxiety to begin with. I hate traveling. It just bothers me so much. So my first time driving out to Pitt, I actually had to turn around and come back because I just had a friggin' panic attack for absolutely no reason, just because I hate traveling. So I'm already, and then finally I go back out there, I'm already like anxious, and James is like, hey, you know, just come on by the facility and we'll sit down and we'll talk. So I go to the facility, I sit down, so hi, how are you? You know, nice to meet you. He goes, and then for about 2 hours, he just very eloquently motherfucks me up and down but he didn't like yell at me, he didn't point fingers, nothing, but he just spoke over my head for 2 hours, and I left there thinking like, oh, I gotta fucking leave. I don't know what the hell's going on. So the next day I come back, I mustered up the balls to come back into the facility, and I walk in the door, and this skinny dude is standing there talking to James, and they're both speaking the same like language, and I didn't understand it.
Robot.
I'm like, oh. I was like, oh my God, I'm way in over my head. Like, I don't know what the hell to do. Like, I really need to leave here. These guys are just, they're too fucking smart. I completely underestimated myself. I don't know what to do. And then Buddy walks in, and I'm like, here he is. Here's the fucking legend. He goes, you're Defranco's guy? I said, yeah, you do too much fucking max effort work. And he walked out. I said, oh, fuck, I pissed him off already. Yeah. I don't know what I did wrong. Now I really got to go. But, I mean, because I coached for so long and I was around a lot of good athletes, like none of these kids intimidated me. You know, I've been around first-round draft picks. I've been around all-pro NFL guys. So, like, a bunch of college kids didn't bother me, so I had no problem coaching them. So I was a real good floor coach, and I was the only intern there that I was allowed to have my own groups, and they told me to do pretty much whatever I wanted with them, you know, with certain groups.
How long was your internship with them?
I think it was like 4 or 6 months, but I was there every day.
Yeah.
Whenever Buddy was there, I was there. Whenever James was there, I was there. So I tried to stay from like 5 in the morning until 10 at night if I could.
Yeah.
They had little mattresses in the back. I rented this shitty room out of one of the guys' apartments. I slept on an air mattress. I had like Domino's pizza. I was unpaid. You know, every Tuesday I'd get like the 5-5-5 deal, and I'd try to take them out to dinners or breakfasts or lunch or anything as much as possible, just spend as much time with them. You know.
Before we keep going on your own journey and development as a coach, I want to re-emphasize the stuff that you just talked about.
Yeah.
That you slept on an air mattress, eating, you know, the cheapest Domino's pizza deal possible to work for free so you could spend 14 hours a day in the weight room and learn as much as you can. Because I have had people, when we run seminars, let's say we're running a seminar in Orange County, California, people will message me and be like, the specific one I'm talking about was a free like squat workshop, and people were messaging me like, "Hey, when are you gonna do one of these in North LA County, like 50 miles away?"
Yeah.
Like, how do you fucking drive down here? Like, I was in college, flying myself to New Jersey with every penny I had so I could, visit Defranco's. Yeah. This guy's sleeping on an air mattress. Max had to live in a log cabin, on a bearskin rug so he could squat 12 times a day in negative 40 degrees in Montana, and then spoon with Ivan Objayev and in that house, like, some may pay for that.
Yeah. I was invited.
But if you really want to develop as a coach, you're gonna understand that you have to be fucking uncomfortable to gather a lot of this information and make some actual sacrifices to do so. So
it's funny too, because like you're not the first person that said that. I mean, obviously Defranco the other day was saying he's working like, 8 a.m. to midnight or whatever, coaching every single hour he could, and then just the amount of work that people put in and with no expectation of anything, right? Yeah. At the very least, you walk out of there knowing something more, but it could be that's just it. It's just over after that, There's no, like you're gonna get paid after you have a job afterward, or that's it's a common theme.
Yeah, people, you can't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah. You have to, and when you get the opportunity to learn from like a really great coach like Buddy and James, and I had this opportunity a lot of times at track meets to learn from different college throws coaches. Like, keep asking them questions until they tell you to fuck off. Like, until they're so annoyed with you, just take everything you can. And if you gotta buy them coffee, buy them dinner, whatever it is. Yeah. So very commendable job there, obviously. So back to the story.
Well, let me add on to that. So one thing that every coach appreciates is when you know about them. Right, so before I went to Buddy and James's, I knew everything about Buddy. Yeah, I knew everything about him. I read every fucking Q&A he had, absolutely everything. I have a pretty decent relationship with a coach named Dan Paff, who is he's just such a good dude, like such a nice guy. And before I even reached out to him, I read everything he wrote, I watched every video he ever put out, and I knew majority of the things that he was going to say when I asked him questions, but I still asked him certain questions just to hear, but I'm not going to waste his time with bullshit questions. If there's something that I could just Google on my own, like first I'm going to exhaust all other options before I waste his time. This guy is like one of the best there is, and I'm going to ask him a stupid question like, oh, what do you do for, VMO strengthening? You're like, no, come on. Like there's better shit to do than that, so exhaust all options before you ask that bullshit question. And that's how, like, if you ask a question that really resonates with that coach, like something that maybe only that coach would know, or something he's like, I don't know. That's a good one. Like that's how you get to know these guys. That's how you develop a relationship, and they develop an appreciation for what it is that you're doing. Like, don't waste a fucking coach's time, especially if they're busy as hell. I get a ton of questions from people, and I try to answer absolutely everything. But if you need to be spoon-fed, you're in the wrong fucking industry. It's just not going to happen. I do my best to not need spoon-feeding, although Defranco was incredibly patient with me, despite being impatient with me. Because I asked, he was the one who answered all my bullshit questions. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know where the hell to start. So there's always that one coach that'll really, drag you along. I was just fortunate enough for it to be Joe. But it makes sure you're not wasting someone's time. Like that's the biggest thing, because these guys are just so fucking busy, so busy, and try to be an asset to all these guys too, and that's why I tried to do a Pitt. So I was just working my ass off there, and they both loved me. James, and that's the other thing. I realized, holy shit, James is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life. Yeah. Like in any field, like whatever doctor I've ever met, James is incredibly intelligent, incredibly knowledgeable, and by the end of it, I was like almost holding on to his pocket the whole time, and Buddy's like, hey, I need help with this group. I was like, fuck, I wanted to spend more time with James. Because Buddy and I are very, very similar, but James was so completely off the grid to me that it was so interesting. Yeah. And just his outlook on stuff, I just couldn't spend enough time with him. So by the end of it, I did such a good job there. Buddy's like, fuck, I don't know what I'm gonna do when you leave. Like all these groups have been significantly easier since you were here. Now when you leave, I'm upset. Buddy wouldn't say goodbye to me because it was like, it bothered him so much to say bye. It was awesome, like it felt good, but I was pissed they didn't say bye. But with both those guys now, I did such a good job that whenever I call, for the most part, Buddy picks up. But, whenever I text, they'll respond, no problem. James, I'm on the phone with him weekly, and it's always for a couple of hours a clip. And it's because you don't waste anyone's time, and you appreciate their time, and that's what I did. So when I got back from there, my whole world was turned upside down because all I knew was Joe's way of training, and obviously there's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, holy, I don't want to say we're doing it all wrong, but like we can do it this way too, and it's probably a little more efficient than this. And Joe was fairly receptive to it. So slowly but surely we started molding things a lot different because when we first started doing things at Joe's, it was very West Side oriented, and yeah, for a little bit that worked because we were better than everyone. Like it was over 10 years ago, right? So we were better than everyone at that point, at least in the area. So now it's just time to mold it a little bit more, and we started doing a lot more sports specific or sports dynamic or whatever you want to call it work, whether it was a speed work or the plyometrics or more, different stuff to get it a little more specific towards the sports that we were doing. And it's slowly molding from there.
So the first thing that Buddy said to you, I think, because I had very much a similar experience with James, that I came in with a lot of West Side ideas, West Side influence ideas, doing really heavy max effort type of work. So the first thing that Buddy says to you is, you guys do too much fucking max effort work. And I think that's sort of the crux of this understanding. So you can kind of explain why maybe that max effort barbell lifts for field sport athletes, why that might not be the best thing.
So I get torched about stuff like this all the time. The most important thing to understand when you're training athletes is their sport isn't in a fucking rack. That's not their sport. Powerlifters, weightlifters, okay, that's their sport. So you guys need to do specific stuff to that.
Yeah.
Athletes, that's secondary. That's icing on the cake.
Right.
What's the most important things? Things that are the most transferable to your sports. Sprints, jumps, throws. That's the only shit we can really do in this setting that's actually transferable. So how are we going to influence those movements in here with those weights? It's not necessarily by getting under a squat bar or pulling some heavy shit or pushing some heavy shit. It's not about that. You need to pick exercises that are transferable, not just to that movement, but to that athlete at this certain time in development that's specific and unique to them, so they can be the best them that they can be. So I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but this is like almost chicken soup.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you throw a whole bunch of shit in there, no wonder. Getting stronger, as James says, is as easy as falling out of a boat and hitting water.
Yeah, I think the thing that really resonated with me, and it was a Charlie Francis concept that James shared about the nervous system as a cup.
Yes.
And everything that you do, every stimulus that you impose on the body and stress is going to fill that cup up to a varying degree. So we have max effort barbell lifts, or maximal weight room training is more stressful, is a bigger stress, and is going to fill that cup up to a greater degree than like submaximal barbell work. Mm-hmm. And as you really look at the hierarchy of what's going to be beneficial and dynamic correspondence and stuff to sport performance, of course, sport practice has to rank higher than lifting. Sprinting, jumping, throwing, going to have a higher transfer. So it became, the thing that clicked for me with that is, why would I fill that cup up more with something that's less important, really? And even in my approach to powerlifting, training doesn't involve a lot of max effort like singles, doubles, triples, or even maximum sets for a given day. So if I don't even think that's the best way to get strong for powerlifting, it's definitely not the best way to get strong for people whose sport isn't lifting the most weight they can on a bar.
Yep. Yeah. And that's you need to exhaust everything in order of importance. Importance is pretty much how you conduct every training session. Right. So to me, sprinting is the most important for most of my field sport athletes, because that's what they do. They sprint. And even for throwers in here, in Bondarchuk's transfer of training, I think one of the most transferable things in early throwers was a 30-meter sprint. That was the thing that had the most transferability with novice levels, with anything. It wasn't the weightlifting. It was the movement. It was the raw movement, like the actual movement of the human being. So improve quality of movement, get them faster as like a whole organism, more efficient, then all of a sudden everything goes on. Yeah. It's like, what's the most natural way to move? Get that better, and then do all the other stuff that we created.
Right.
You know, and the filling of the glass, like we want to exhaust all the sprints first. Then you want to exhaust either the throws or the jumps next. And then if you have time, we hit the weights.
Yeah, you know? And that would go to the another Charlie Francisism that weights follow speed, and not just in a chronological sense. That obviously you want to do sprints before you squat, so you don't blow out both your hamstrings. But in the sense that if you have this really big session of sprinting, that's such a powerful stimulus to the body that if we look at ground contact forces, even in someone at maximal speed sprinting, it's like 10 times body weight force at maximal velocity. In each step, a unilateral 10 times your body weight on one leg. Granted, it's for a fraction of a second at a time, but no one is sure shit ain't coming in here and putting 10 times their body weight on one leg. So it's this very, very powerful strength stimulus. And when you look at Olympic sprinters, and they're so jacked and so muscular, they're so jacked not because of lifting, but because of sprinting.
Yeah. The most important thing to realize is it's very difficult to simulate field stuff in the weight room. And that's our goal. We need to simulate it as best as we can to apply it, but so there's transferability. But it's very difficult. You can't put 10 times your body weight on the 1 foot. So that's clearly not the be all end all.
Right. Do you think that there's or at least it was a long time ago, maybe in the beginning, that there was a predominance of coaches to do a lot of strength training? Because initially, if you take somebody who's really weak and has like a really low level of trainedness and they become stronger, you're going to see some level of improvement in the athletic performance, right? Like you're taking high school kids. And it's like a short-sighted solution, right? Like, if we make this guy way stronger, he's kind of a better football player, or it sort of transfers a little bit, simply because he's just slightly more capable, has better general qualities. But in the long term, you shoot yourself in the foot because now you're neglecting the development of obviously more important, specific work and specific preparation for later on in his career. You think that's kind of a thing where, coaches get stuck in that, and then they see results early, they're not open-minded enough to sort of realize that maybe that's like a short-term thing, and then they just kind of keep going with it?
Yeah, confirmation bias, right?
Right,
like
yeah.
It's on every level of every industry.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely, if this is what you believe, then you constantly reinforce that with all the other stuff going on.
Right.
There's again, another argument with that, but the bottom line is the best guy in the world at that topic, at that skill, and the worst guy in the world at the same event, they both do the same exact shit. The only things that are going to get them better are general movements and specific movements. You know what I mean? So basic weightlifting and playing their sport is the only thing getting them better at their sport, and playing their sport and basic weightlifting or basic calisthenics, the only things that's going to get these guys better, right? And it's everything else in between that's kind of it just becomes a little bit more one side versus the other. The ratios kind of go about. But where I talk about this with my one coach here, is it better to start these guys off with the weight room and then have them become more efficient movers, or is it have them become more efficient movers and then do the weight room to help reinforce that? That's why we have both.
Right.
But to me, I'm biased because movement is everything.
Yeah.
Without proper movement, if they can't move at high velocities, well, guess what? We just dial it down. We'll do submaximal work. And if we have to have them walking first, then jogging first, and then they'll, slowly 55, 65, 75, 85, 90, however we need to increase the volume, that's still strength work. Strength, like James said on the one Ask the Thinker thing, strength is an ambiguous term. What's the difference between having the strength to run a marathon versus having the strength to squat, right? If you couldn't run the marathon in this time, it's because you were, X amount of steps too weak. in order to do it. You just weren't strong enough to do it. So it's all different types of strength. So however we need to progress it, it's all force. That's how the body sees it. So even submaximal tempo work is still force. It's still strength work. So it's still going to be expressed. So I have my guys do tons and tons and tons of movement quality, because if I enhance the movement quality, they're going to become more efficient. If they become more efficient, they're going to produce more force anyway. So just through movement efficiency, we're producing more force.
I think Chris Carlisle, who was for a long time the strength coach at USC when they were having those huge dynasties, and now is probably, I'm assuming, still with the Seahawks, that remember him saying that the weight room was a facilitator to movement. And as a football, when I was coaching high school football, and then early in Juggernaut when I was training a lot of football players, high school age football players and college guys, it's very simple to say, to see a result in the weight room, to see my bench went up 10 pounds, my squat went up 25 pounds. And for someone, an athlete or a coach to get really excited about that, like a football coach, to, as a strength coach or physical preparation coach, whatever title we want to use, to tell the head football coach, hey, the team went on 15 pounds average improvement on their bench press. Yeah. Awesome, very tangible, simple result for him. But if you can't say, their squat going up this much made them this much better at football, then should it really matter? So it's if the squat isn't making them run faster, jump higher, be more explosive off the line, is it really doing what you intended it to do?
Yeah, and it's a defense mechanism that strength coaches have to have, because they're constantly in need to justify their job. Yeah. Because and James will tell you there shouldn't be strength coaches, and I kind of agree. I mean, I'm borderline illiterate. I'm 32 years old, and I know more than most average strength coaches do, and I can barely read and write. You know what I mean? It's not that hard.
You've written articles for me, right?
This is reinforcing the homeless thing here too.
I should probably go back and check this.
But it's not that difficult to have an understanding of what it is that we're doing. It's just that sports don't exactly attract the intellectuals. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's no reason why a coach that went to college can't learn what I know, and like a receivers coach, be able to coach his core just like a track and field guy, right? Like what track and field coach says, just go to the weight room. Like most of them are in charge of it. Yeah. Most of the best Charlie Francis handled most of the programming for Ben Johnson stuff. I mean, he might not have been like the eyes and ears on it all the time, but he did the programming. So it's not that difficult to actually do. They just don't do it. So now there's this segregation between strength coaches and field coaches, and now the strength coaches. Before
we get too much into this, I want to take a quick break. We'll be back with Mike and talk more about this kind of idea of program management. One coach being able to oversee all these different facets of an athlete's development, as well as creating freak strength here. And so we'll be back in a minute with Mike Guadango.
If you ever shower, brush your teeth, or try to make your hair look presentable, generally just trying to make yourself not look like a ragamuffin, I've got good news for you. Dollar Shave Club has a lot of stuff to help you out. As you may have noticed, I am a handsomely rugged, bearded man, but what Dollar Shave Club has goes far beyond razors. They have the One Wipe Charlies to keep you clean where you really need to be clean, and the Amber Lavender Body Cleanser. It's going to keep you smelling fresh. So they've got everything you need to get ready in the bathroom, much more than just razors. Dollar Shave Club, yes, that Dollar Shave Club delivers everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. You name it: shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothpaste, hair gel, even a wipe that'll leave your tush feeling tingly clean. If it can help a gentleman of advanced size as myself get such a hot girlfriend, it's probably worth it to check it out. I'm a big fan of their Amber and Lavender Calming Body Cleanser. Never smelled anything like it. Good luck finding a product that great at the store. And all of Dollar Shave Club's products are made with top shelf ingredients that won't break your budget. You'll feel the difference, plus shipping is free with your membership. Here's a great way to try a bunch of Dollar Shave Club's products. For just $5, you can get their Daily Essentials Starter Set. It comes with Body Cleanser, One Wipe Charlies, their amazing butt wipes, their world-famous shave butter, and their best razor, the 6-Blade Executive. Keep the blades coming for a few more bucks a month. Add in shampoo, toothpaste, or anything else you need. Check it all out at dollarshaveclub.com/juglife. That's dollarshaveclub.com/juglife.
All right, so we're back on the Jug Life podcast here in New Jersey with Mike Guadango at his gym, Freak Strength. And we were just getting into the topic with Mike of program management and the ability of one coach to be able to oversee multiple aspects of development. And this is becoming kind of a more prevalent idea. NFL teams, high-level sports, what we talked with Bo Sandoval about in our episode at the UFC Performance Institute. But this high-performance director type of thing. Talk about why the concept of a program manager is so valuable in athletic development.
So there's a disconnect between so many different aspects of every team, especially at the professional level. Like you have the athletic training room, then you have the strength room, then you have all the positional coaches, and everything's all kind of broken up. And there's not much communication. So the strength coach needs to kind of be the one to give, and he's the one that needs to monitor all the issues from afar rather than having someone oversee absolutely everything. And this is why they have the GPS stuff, but most teams, they can't use it.
Yeah.
They don't know what to look for, or coaches just don't want to hear it. If you have a practice squad guy that's running 5,000, Hogan was running 5,000 meters of practice sometimes, high intensity, because he was a special teams guy, and he was trying to make the team when he was with the Bills. But what are you going to say? Hey, this bubble guy needs a day off.
Yeah.
Fuck that. No, this bubble guy needs to get the shit kicked out of him so our ones and twos can really get their work in, So they don't utilize the information properly because they can't, So there needs to be someone, there needs to be an authority to oversee all that, saying, hey, red light. I think Quorum did like the red light, green light, or red light, yellow, like whatever it was. But to be like, hey, this is too much, he needs to sit, because it becomes an indicator of potential injury. So and this is what we were talking before with the justification of strength coaches. Because my job is, if I'm good at my job, I need to monitor, I need to be a plan B machine. So when a guy comes in, my only justification of his improvement is what happens in here. So I have to have him bench, squat, and deadlift, because those are raw numbers. Hey, when he got in here, his bench was this, his bench went there. I did my job. That's all I care about. So now it becomes like me doing my job or me protecting my job. So and the strength coaches are always the biggest scapegoats, because it's a low man on the totem pole. Yeah. Hey, we had too many ACL injuries this year. Fire the strength coach. Number one in the NFL, strength coach will have them for 12 weeks during OTAs. Then they're gone for 4 weeks. Then they have them, or gone for 6 weeks sometimes. Then they have them come back, and it's preseason. Well, you go from OTAs to I don't see you, you're a shadow, and then you come back and we're time to kick the shit out of you. So maybe it's not necessarily the strength coach's fault. Maybe it's the overloading of every single positional coach, because football is a tough, hard-nosed type sport. Yeah. And that's why all these guys, they stick behind a lot of these exercises, because everyone's getting hurt. So let me pigeonhole myself into being just the strength guy so I can continue to support my family.
Right.
That's what sucks. So that's why you kind of need someone to oversee absolutely everything. But again, this is why James also says there shouldn't even be a strength coach. It should just be positional coaches. And if this position keeps getting injured, well, that coach needs to go, rather than having this segregation.
So what we're getting into, and I talk about this at our powerlifting seminars and stuff, when we get into different levels of fatigue and fatigue management, tell people, if you're a powerlifter or a weightlifter who truly gets overtrained, you're one, horrible at designing programs, and two, incredibly tough, because you're doing, you're going to keep squatting heavy and snatching and clean jerk and all this stuff, even when your body is screaming at you to take a break. And because there's so few things to manage in powerlifting and weightlifting, squat, bench, and deadlift, snatch, clean and jerk, you'd have to be really shitty at program design to really get overtrained. But when we look at the training of a football player, they've got their technical work, the football practice, everything that's happening in there, whether that's individual positional drills, team drills, 7-on-7, whatever it may be, and then they have all of their general physical work being managed by the strength coaches and athletic training staff and rehab, prehab, all that kind of things. So as you get more and more moving parts being directed by more people, it's harder for those things to be coordinated. Now, I think the problem from a practical standpoint that our listeners who are maybe have their own facility like you or a high school coaches, the problem that they run into is that because a program manager doesn't exist, or they're running a private facility and don't have interaction with their athletes, coaches all the time, they have to be reactive to it. So what advice would you give to a gym owner like this who's maybe working with high school or college athletes, and in being able to be more effective in helping their athletes succeed without overloading them to the same degree that maybe their sport coaches are overloading them?
Know your role. What is your role? Your role becomes a program manager. If you actually understand things, which you hope to, if you own a facility, you hope to really research and understand things the best you can. But if you have a decent grasp of things, you understand that the field is the most important thing, and that you need to be able to adjust. You need to be the guy that's always, all right, well, what'd you do? Ask a bunch of questions, see what they did at practice, see if they lifted at all, and then make the adjustment from there. You need to be the guy that has to bend. Otherwise, you're just going to hurt everyone. So you need to make sure you ask them the questions. I mean, even having surveys, or having them do different CNS testing, CNS stress testings, procedures, whatever it is, however you need to go about doing it, or just having simple conversations with them to register fatigue, however you need to monitor it. You have to monitor fatigue.
I think that one, the simple conversation, is so overlooked, but really kind of gets to the art of coaching and the personal side of things, that as there's more and more technology out there and great tools like Omega Wave or different HRV type of things, people want to become so reliant upon that rather than just dealing with the input, the feedback that's right in front of them, the athlete and how they feel, and asking them that, and not just being like, oh, how you feeling today? And then the athlete's like, oh, fine, not too bad. Not just taking that answer at face value, but actually having real valuable communication with the athletes you coach.
That's the first thing I do. Every single athlete I've ever coached in person, the first question when you see them, how you feel today? It's not just what are the words that are going to come out of their mouth, because it's communication isn't just the actual syntax. It's what are they trying to convey to me when they say it? Are they saying, oh, I feel great in a manipulative way? Are they saying I feel great in a really serious way? Do they feel great? Do they not? So you pick all these like subtle things up when you actually speak to someone in person, that right off the bat when you ask them that question, knowing that person, having a rapport with that person, you pick up tons of feedback immediately from a simple question, and you have that question every single day. You get right off the bat, a bunch of information. Yeah,
and I mean, this is the art of coaching is psychology.
Right. It's communication. Right?
You're learning how to read these guys. You collect a series of data. There's a ton of things that you perceive, or your KPIs, your key performance indicators with these guys, whether it's fatigue or for certain performance with certain activities. But I know when my guys are shot.
Yeah.
I know when my kids have been up all night playing Fortnite or on Snapchat for too damn long. I can tell because their demeanor, their posture, their response to certain stimuli. So you ask them a question, and there are guys I won't even have to talk to. I'll watch them walk through the door and just keep my eye on them for a little bit, watch them go through some of the stretches, and their demeanor's just off. I said, what's up? I said, nothing, I'm good. Bro, what's up? Nothing, I'm good. What is up? And then they tell you. So it's, you need to know your athletes, and it's tough if you just, and if you're in a team setting, good fucking luck. Yeah. I'm very fortunate. Now, if you're in the NFL team setting, I'd like to say good luck, but I mean, a lot of these coaches do such a good job. Like the guy with the Giants, he really does an awesome job. They're from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's certain guys really do an individualized program for all 52 or 53 players on the roster and 60 plus, whatever, for practice squad. But most guys, NFL guys are paid well enough to be able to stay late and do all that stuff. It's their job. Most guys aren't paid enough to be able to do that. So I have like 20 guys in at a time sometimes, but I've been able to work with these guys in small enough groups where I can make that adjustment and I know them well enough. You know, to be able to identify the issues with each personality is big, but I'm also very fortunate. I draw specifically from a county pretty much, right? Like I'm in Bergen County, New Jersey, and I'll have guys all from very similar demographics. Whereas if you go to Pittsburgh or you go to the Giants or you go to any sports team, you're pulling guys from all over the country with all different backgrounds, you know, all different shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, whatever.
Right.
Everyone's going to express fatigue, stress in a different way. So you need to know psychology. You need to learn all these different cues to be able to read these guys effectively in order to help them the best that they can. I mean, like I said, getting stronger is a joke, but improving performance is predicated upon so much more than just what we do in here. Because what we do in here is dictated by how you're actually feeling.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, who knows, maybe yesterday you had an awesome, awesome day. Life was good. You couldn't have been on a bigger high. And that serotonin was at an all-time high. And what happens with highs comes down to lows.
Yeah.
Right? With every valley, there's peaks and valleys. You know, like it's high-low. It's a Charlie Francis. That's life. So maybe nothing's wrong, but maybe he was just so damn excited yesterday and he was so damn happy that today he's just like, blah. You know, so
sure.
To understand your guys is very, very important, where they're coming from and their background. It sounds ridiculous, but are both parents in their lives? How's their family life? You know, what did they grow up with? To know who these guys are really helps you coach them. Because, I mean, I have some really, really bad dudes, like hardcore dudes, like NFL guys that are just tough motherfuckers. You know, they will not show a thing. You ask them millions of questions, tons of times. They ain't opening up to you. Yeah. You know, like some guy never had a friggin' father, or this guy was beat when he was younger, or so-and-so was molested. Like, why the hell is he going to open up to this weirdo that's barefoot with the beard? Like, I'm not, do you really want to know my shit? You know what I mean? So, but you need to pick up other cues, like, all right, how's their movement different? How's their walking? Or a lot of guys will just hide it entirely. And that's where the technology comes into play, because they're just brick walls. Because I'm not a friggin' psych. I don't have a PsyD. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't my, I just try to learn as much as I can. But that's where the technology comes in handy. But it's quantifying, it's justifying what it is that we're seeing as communicators and coaches.
From the technology side of things, what are some of the stuff that you feel is a really useful tool?
They say HRV is pretty good. But again, it's very difficult to walk into something, use it a first time, and have it be effective. You need to collect data.
Yeah.
You know?
I've, Dr. Mike Israetel, who we do a lot of work with, he described the HRV as a lagging indicator of fatigue.
Yes.
So
by then, it's already done.
Yeah. So for an individual athlete, by the time it gives them a red or a bad score or whatever, you know, they're already fucked. So you found it out too late. But as you can track like an entire team's HRV and begin to see trends of, okay, we did this, you know, on Monday, it caused this HRV response on Tuesday, to sort of simplify it. So the next time we do that, I can you know, better predict the coming trend.
Yeah, I mean, some things that I've noticed too is when you have too many good days in a row, again, the highs and lows, like that's a phenomenal indicator of shit's about to hit the fan.
Right, yeah.
You know, I think Joel Jamieson used to have his guys, when they were sick, come in and do like a heavy 1RM to kind of get everything going, or guys would have the best PRs right before they got sick.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like that hormonal response, like your body's, it's creating all this growth hormone and testosterone to protect, it's an immune response to protect yourself from all this damage.
Those are the East Germans, right?
Yeah, East Germany would like give people a flu shot, more or less, to try and time giving them the flu right after competition.
Right before. They would give them the flu.
They'd compete, so they'd get this high, the immune system would be, you know, kicking into full gear, knowing like I have to fight this off because I'm gonna get sick, but no symptoms were present yet. Yeah. So it's like, all right, go out throw 22 meters in the shot put on Saturday. Monday, vomiting with the stomach flu.
Yeah, that's really interesting. The immune response and how it actually helps us like to stay as. But I mean, that's a great way to destroy your guys.
Well, I mean,
longevity wasn't the plan.
I've heard a similar type of thing, and I don't know if this is a rumor or not, of like the Chinese, some of the women's athletes, them like doing artificial insemination to get them pregnant because of the hormonal response in the first trimester of pregnancy.
Holy shit.
I don't know if these are just like coaching rumors, but American propaganda about this kind of thing, but who knows?
It wouldn't be that big a stretch to imagine people have tried everything there is.
Yeah. So who are some of the coaches and the resources that you look to further your development, or that have been influential to you and continue to further your development?
Well, obviously, I was born and raised essentially with Defranco, so he was like my gateway. But then after that, Buddy Morris, James the Thinker Smith, Dan Path. I mean, he's been incredibly. He's so open and so nice and such an awesome resource. He's been so cool to me. But really, like one of the most instrumental guys that I've had in my life in all aspects of my life has been James. I mean, James has just guided me in so many ways. And this is a guy that charges, $400 an hour for consulting, and he'll be on the phone with me for hours and hours and hours, and won't charge me a dime just because we're boys, and he takes care of me. He's just such a good dude.
Well, assuming people can't afford $200 to $400 an hour, or they don't just get to call him and he doesn't charge them, what are maybe some books that James has written or any books that you'd recommend to people?
Global Sport Concepts, or the governing globalsportconcepts.net is his website.
He would have a .net.
Yeah,
of course he would.
That's pretty standard. Then he has the governing dynamics of sports. It's phenomenal. It reads like all his books do, so you really need to focus on it.
It's dense. It's a dense read.
It's phenomenal. He goes over absolutely everything. I brush over stuff. It's like secondhand info. You might as well just interview him. He has the sprint training guide. That's really good. But honestly, most of the stuff that I do now, it sounds ridiculous. I don't read much strength conditioning anymore. I'll read biology, anatomy, physiology, the basics, physics. But I try to get more stuff from outside because I'm more conceptually based. So I try to build my program off of more universal concepts than I do specific to strength conditioning, because it's, concepts are pretty applicable.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just trying to learn and improve just as a human, and it'll make me a better critical problem solver in here, because it's like the more specialized you become,
right,
the more confirmation bias exists, and then you're not a good critical problem solver.
What about any texts from Dan Path that you would really suggest?
He doesn't have anything. Dan Path, I don't think he sells anything. I know they have Altus, right? Yeah. They have like their coaches education program. I've never done it. I've never read it. So I'm sure it's good though. Like those guys are McMillan and
Stuart McMillan.
Yeah, they're all brilliant dudes. They're engulfed in this.
PAF is PFAFF.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dan Path, Google him. You'll be able to find articles and interviews and stuff. Stuart McMillan, another coach that Mike just mentioned, great sprint coach at Altus in Arizona. He's a British guy. Yeah.
No. He's like a Texas guy. He went to Texas. I think he might have been like an Indiana guy actually. Okay. But he's coached so many guys under a 10-second. He was with Carl Lewis, right? Is that right? He was Carl Lewis. He was because that's Thomas. Anyway, he was a track and field. I can't believe I'm forgetting their names. He was a GA for a big-time track and field coach, and then he just built his resume through there.
Yeah, I've found that the track and field training definitely seems to be at the forefront. When it comes to learning about all things performance.
Tom Telez.
Yeah,
there we go.
Because it's such, track events are so pure output. The fastest, the highest, the farthest, the most powerful in the throwing events, that as you can take the ideas from there and sort of extrapolate them out to different sports, whether that's strength sports like powerlifting and weightlifting, or team sports and field-based sports. So I highly encourage you to look at more track and field based training, whether that's Bondarchuk, Dan Paff, all these great coaches.
Isserin.
Yeah.
Hey.
Zatsorski, like there's so many resources, and there's so many different opinions with very similar concepts. Charlie Francis, holy shit.
Yeah.
You can't, and a lot of people hate Charlie Francis. But the guy was conceptually brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. Charlie gets maybe vilified, and Charlie Francis was Ben Johnson's sprint coach, and people want to vilify him because Ben Johnson got caught taking steroids, and Charlie, in a lot of ways, was sort of unapologetic about it, and rightfully so, unapologetic about it because, surprise, surprise, Ben Johnson wasn't the only sprinter taking steroids. I mean, fucking 7 out of 9 guys in that finals have been popped, and guess what? He ran faster than all of them, a lot faster than all of them. So, using that as a justification to discount someone's expertise or information, particularly in a setting like that, the 1988 Olympics were a fucking drug free-for-all. Because Charlie was a lot of his stuff and seeing James put it into practice, these concepts that seemed complicated, and really abstract to me. Once I saw James put it into practice, I was like, oh, so the simplest, most intuitive answer, that's the right one. And who would have thought?
And that's the problem with the industry, which is why I kind of take a step back from it, because everyone's trying to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
It's just too much of the same shit. Because the bottom line is, outside of technological advances, it's already been done.
Yeah.
And it's already been thought of. So if someone's like, oh, well, I have this new way to do this type of massage, like, well, if there's not technology involved, then it's just pressure. So that's nothing new. You know what I mean? Like, or all these different mobility exercises. Like, it's been done, man. Like, it's not that complicated. Like, let's take the step back, and what's the concept that we're trying to learn here? Because if you get too involved in stuff, then James has an incredible, because he's the music appreciation guy. He's got such an incredible ability to see the forest from the trees. He takes that step back, and if you could just see absolutely everything, see how simple everything really is, and it's just all right. When block periodization first started becoming popular, it was like, oh, transmutation, I don't know what it's, all right, well, accumulate the load, then blend it into this one for transmutative loads, which, make it a little harder. And then realization, well, we take away some volume so you could get a little higher with the percentages, and then it's not that tough.
Yeah. And as we use terms like that, sometimes I'll tell people something like accumulation, that's just a word to use for us to sound smarter than we really are. To explain something that's more simple than that. But a lot of good information there, a lot of good suggestions to continue learning. Mike, where can people find out more about you, follow you?
Freakstrength.com, that's our website. I have my Instagram, which is @freakstrength or @Guadango, our Twitter @freakstrength, @Guadango, and on Facebook. Right. Mike Guadango or Freakstrength.
Or at the bus stop.
No, I don't take the bus.
Yeah, maybe sleeping at your local park. So this was another episode of the Jug Life Podcast. If you enjoy it, go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, write us something funny or nice if I remember. Maybe I'll pull out one of those reviews and read it here on the air, but I forgot again today. So no free shirts for anyone. If you're interested in online coaching for powerlifting, weightlifting, power building, strongman, or super total, check out juggernautcoaching.com, and we have all kind of different levels of programs. Their upcoming events, we will be Friday, April 13th at CrossFit Oakland / Max's Gym in Oakland, California for Jug Life Live. Then we'll be back out here in the greater New York area for the 2018 Juggernaut Performance Summit, August 19th in Long Island. And that will be myself, Max, Dr. Mike Israetel, Dr. Quinn Hennock, and Dr. James Hoffman presenting on program design, technique development, recovery, nutrition, and mobility. So really the 5 things that you need to be good at if you want to be strong and a great performer. So check that out. You can also get some NSCA CEUs with that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3 videos a week, helped by the world's strongest videographer, Shorty Sedang. Max, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram @Max_Ada or on Facebook. You can email me if you have any questions about coaching or any of the online coaching offerings we have at max@jtsstrength.com.
And I'm Chad Wesley Smith, at Chad Wesley Smith and at Juggernaut Training on Facebook and Instagram, filling up your newsfeed all day. This was another episode of the Jug Life Podcast. Thanks for watching or listening. We'll see you next week.